Welcome back to Overland Empire. I'm Max and M47. This is a Call on Corpses, and this is the actual play session 2. Last time we built our SCLB, gathered our starting gear, and prepped to head out into the wilds of Cruel Britannia. This time, we're playing through the Miners' Church, the opening funnel that teaches the core rules as we go. We'll be making checks, tracking supplies, facing events, and trying to survive long enough to reach the Miners' Church. Let's get into it. Rose Lane. What follows is the path to the County Palatine of Calabria. Along the way, you'll learn the rules, descending into the Miners' Church, your first real taste of adventure, and an opportunity to learn the ropes. Will you make it to Calabria? Maybe, just maybe, but probably not in one piece. You walk down the lane with only the old man's words to guide you. Thieves, murderers, and union men alike hang from the gibbets. It's solemn and oppressive. Movement in the Overland is open-ended with terrain type usually determined by the Overland terrain table. When all encounters have been resolved in a hex, you may choose to search. With movement, time will pass and the world will become more dangerous at night. Time is tracked on the outer edge of the weather chain. So here's our weather chain, and here is our time tracker. For now, though, it is midday. An hour passes for every hex traversed and every 4 rooms in a delve. So the first thing we're going to do in this hex is we're going to search. We're just going to look around, see what's here. So on a D6, luckily we rolled a 6. So we do actually find something. So we get to roll on the treasure table, which is on page 79. So we're going to roll on the Overland treasure table. That's a D20, and that's an 11. We find an observer's writ. We can present this to an NPC and choose their disposition, which is going to come in handy later on, because when you encounter NPCs, they're not all going to be, "Hi, how you doing?" And to the same extent, they're not all going to just turn around and stab you in the face. Hunting. Hunting can be done in any hex that is not a town, mine, or building. You make a DR12 presence test. If successful, roll on the hunting prey table. If you fail, instead roll on the hunting misfortune table. An animal provides 1 ration step, D4. So killing prey is resolved as per combat rules, which are on the next page. DR12 presence test, I've got -1 presence, so it's going to be a 13 I need to beat 8. We fail at hunting, so it means we have to roll on the misfortunes table, and a D4, which is a 4. You startle the animal. It strikes, inflicting D2 damage before fleeing. So we are going to flip for this. So we go heads, it's a 1. Tails, it's a 2. Heads, it's a 1. No, that's tails. Tails, so we take 2 damage straight off the bat. So that brings us down from 14 to 12. So some items in OC&C are classed as resources. Resources are indicated with a die number and a asterisk, e.g. D4 asterisk. Resources are tracked as a die, D4, D6, D8, D10, D12. When a resource is used, roll the die indicated. On a 1 to 2, it steps down 1 size. So from D12 to D10 to D8 to D6 to D4. If a D4 steps down, you run out. When adding to a resource you already have, increase the tracking die by 1 step. So D4 goes to D6, goes to D8, goes to D10, that was a percentile, goes to D12. Unless the ration type says otherwise, you will start with a D4, find another ration, get D6, find another ration, get D8. Use a ration and roll a 1 or 2, step back down to D6. D12 is the max type for any resource. Proceed to the next hex on Widow's Lane. So a wild dog appears. When you encounter a creature, you can fight or flee. But in this instance, your back's against the wall and fleeing is not an option. Roll D20 plus strength against the enemy's DR. DR is listed up here as DR12, so standard middle-of-the-road creature. So we want to be getting a 12 because we have a 0 on strength. Ooh, we get +2 to our combat rolls because we have a shovel. So what we actually need is to roll 10 up. It's 20, nat 20. Woo, critical, double damage. So we'll go through what those actually do. So crit natural 20 is 2 times damage and ignores armor. If you get over your DR, you wound the monster, equal to the DR. Both you and the creature take half damage, rounding down. If you fail the DR, you take damage. If you roll a natural 1, it's a fumble and you take double damage. But in this instance, we roll the nat 20, so we're going to do double damage. And damage on our shovel is D4, so we're going to roll a D8 because it's double. And we're going to deal 7 damage to his hit points of 6. That was a surprisingly quick combat. When encountering multiple enemies, damage is dealt to them individually. When one enemy dies, any remaining damage is inflicted on the next creature. You may fight enemies in any order you choose, but they will attack you in order of DR. Combat continues until yours or your enemy's hit points are depleted. If your hit points reaches 0, see Broken on page 31. So we'll take that opportunity to have a quick look, actually, at what happens when you're broken, because it's slightly different from Mortborg. When you're broken in this game, when your character reaches 0 hit points for the first time, take a flesh wound, which means you gain the bleeding status. So bleeding is lose 1 hit point an hour until bleeding stops or a tourniquet applied. At the end of each hour, test toughness DR10, success stops the bleeding. You would take a flesh wound for every subsequent drop to 0 hit points, roll on the injuries table, and restore hit points to maximum -1. Some of these can only be taken once. Lost Land can be taken 2 times. When you sustain 4 permanent injuries after the first flesh wound, your character succumbs to death. So in total, you can go down to 0 hit points 5 times. And then after that, you're dead. Once you become broken and taken your injury, you put your hit points back up, dust yourself off, get up, and carry on with your adventure, basically. Okay, so coming back to our combat. Just slain the dog. When you've slain a creature, roll on the treasure table and gain XP equal to the creature's DR. So we get 12 XP for that. And we get to roll on the treasure table. Treasure table is on page 79. So we're going to find some treasure after slaying the dog, and we get an 8, which is gold. D12 pieces of gold. So how many gold pieces do we get? We get 9. Take that. That's good. It's a good start. We got 9 gold. Most enemies will not fight to the last drop of blood. Roll for morale. If half of the group is eliminated, a single enemy has only a third of its hit points left. If you roll greater than the creature's morale value with 2d6, it is demoralized and flees. If it doesn't have a morale value in its stat block, it will never flee. It will fight you to the bitter end. It will fight you until it dies or you die, whichever happens first. After combat, we cover fleeing and evasion. To flee combat, roll a d4. On a 1, fail, take half damage and remain in combat. 2 is a narrow escape, half damage, and exit combat. 3 is an escape -1 hit point, and 4 is a complete escape. You manage to slip away. After a successful evasion, move immediately to the next room or hex. No searching, hunting, camping, or mining. So, we're on to hex 3. Trading in currency. Company scrip is the standard currency in Calabria, which we rolled for during our character creation. Coal can only be sold to the mining companies on exit from a pit. Rates paid at the pit warden's discretion. Scrip paid in exchange for coal by the mining companies, accepted in towns, villages, and by travelling traders. Gold, the only currency the Union will accept for membership. Nobody will sell you gold for scrip. It can only be mined and smuggled out. You may freely buy and sell items at their listed values to traders. Travelling butcher approaches. So we get the travelling butcher, so we're just going to put a great big cleaver in here. Ching. And the butcher has for sale meat, which is a ration type, lamp oil, meat, honey, fermented saliva, canary, and miner's dice. I think what we'll do is we will buy a canary for 3 scrip, which allows us to ignore 1 peril. So that takes my scrip down to 17. I don't know if I can afford to buy anything else. No, we can't. So we'll take the 1 canary, and off we go. Now, this is our first mini delve. So we're just going to put like a little mine entrance in here, just to signify that. And we're going to get one of our miner pit pages, just so that we can track what's happening in the pit. So delving takes you into both minor pits and major mines. Each has their own set of mechanics, encounters, enemies, and challenges. Roll on the room size, exits, and events for every new room. The events table will indicate which subsequent table to roll. In this delve, after 4 rooms, a roll of 4 on the exits table will also generate an exit from this pit. In this delve, you can freely retrace your steps without further encounter, unless you left anything behind or fled from a creature. This will still be present where you left them. So, room size is a d4. These are all d4, incidentally. Just so happen to have 3 d4s. So we'll go, it's a 2 for a room size. So we got a little tiny room, which means instantly we're going to have to take a claustrophobic test. That's not a great start. So it's a small room. It has 3 exits. So we go 1, 2, 3. And the event is, that's at 4. So there is treasure in this room. So that's the other thing we haven't done. So we started at 12 o'clock. We fought the dog at 1 o'clock. We saw the travelling butcher at 2 o'clock. And at 3 o'clock, we have headed into the mine. Before we proceed, I need to take a test, don't I? Because I'm claustrophobic. We need to make a presence test. If we fail, we're going to run out of the mine because there's nowhere else to go. So presence test is a -1. So that's going to be 13 up 4. It's a failure. So he's absolutely bottled it. He's ran straight out of the miner pit and back up to land. We've come out of the mine. When you leave any pit, turn in your coal for 10 script per chunk. Also a game plus 10 script for every 4 rooms explored. Incidentally, if you go into a pit and you get so far in but every room becomes a dead end, that's not the end of that dungeon. You can go away, you can come back the following day, and each room that was a dead end will now have a new exit because either York Coal or Lancaster Mining Co. have gone in and kind of bored through the hard rock that was the dead end, essentially. So proceed for the next hex on Widow's Lane when you finish delving, which brings us to 5. So, setting up camp. It requires time and supplies. It takes an hour to make camp and an hour to break it. So we've already moved on to 4 o'clock because we've moved into our next hex. It can be done in any hex that isn't a pit, mine, village, or town. When camping, you'll consume a ration and sleep for D10 plus 4 hours. After rolling for sleep, roll on the camping events table below. After camping, every morning, roll to see if a prognostication occurs. See page 55, which is of Colin Corpse's version of the Miseries from Morgborg, which we will get to shortly. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to use our ration. So, bam, 4. We don't lose out on the rations. We've still got D4 rations, which is a good thing. And we're going to sleep for D10 plus 4 hours. So let me grab my D10. 8. So we're going to sleep for 12 hours. So what we're going to do is, now that we know how long we're sleeping for, or how long we should have slept for, we're going to go ahead and roll a D12 for our camping events, which is an 11. Something eats part of your rations. Lose 1 ration step and only sleep for 8 hours. So we'll go back 4 hours to 7 AM. And that means we've now got 0 rations. So we slept for 8 hours, which means we get a full night's sleep and we restore 6 hit points. We're already at our maximum of 12, so that can stay as that. This is where we cover darkness. As nighttime falls, or you descend below ground, darkness takes hold. All tests are a -1 in darkness. So whether that be combat, presence, agility, or any other test that the book asks you to make. If you have a lamp, that negates darkness, but obviously it will consume lamp oil as you go. Survival. Without ration resources, which we now don't have, no hit points are restored when resting or sleeping, and after 2 days, a starving PC loses D4 hit points per day. XP and leveling. When you slay a creature, add its DR to your XP pool, which we already did when we slayed our dog, because we got 12 XP. Leveling up costs 100 XP, and can only be done once per day in towns, villages, and camps. You start at level 0. You can only increase this up to level 3 in this book. When you level up, the following things occur. You get more hit points, and you get extra abilities. Oh, yes, before we progress, we need to roll on the prognostications table. The Cinderpress prognostications. The world rots, you can feel it, smell it, and see it, if you choose to look. It seeps from the ground into beast, man, and institution alike. Every day the balance of power shifts. You begin at 1-1 on the Warring Factions tracker, which is right here. So we're going to pop a little die on there just so we know where we're at. At the end of each day, roll a die. A result of 1 activates a prognostication. The die used is determined by you and you alone. So because I like the idea of the world ending and accelerating, I'm going to use a D6. 1. There we go. So that means we're going to have to roll a prognostication. Then roll again to determine movement on the tracker. Even numbers roll the upper path. Odd numbers follow the lower path. No state will ever repeat. So we're going to use our D6 again. If we get an even number, we follow the upper path. Odd number, lower path. So we get an even number, so we're going to move on the upper path to 2-1. Now 2-1 says, York expands, securing new contracts and rail access. Effect: trade prices increase by 1 gold. So, that kind of concludes the Widow's Lane, which takes us into the Miners' Church. And that's Widow's Lane. We've made our first journey, covered the basic rules, and learned one important lesson. A claustrophobic miner and a tiny room are not a good combination. Next time we enter the Miners' Church and face our first real taste of Overland hexcrawl. If you enjoyed this week's video, drop a like, subscribe to the channel for more actual plays, more solo RPG stuff, more behind the scenes bits from Overland Empire. I've been Axon M47, this is Overland Empire. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you on the next time.